In 2019, Malaysia and the rest of the world was affected by COVID-19, declaring it is a pandemic. In response to the pandemic, the world shuts itself by closing its borders. Travel bans are introduced. After a few months, some countries showed excellent results fighting the pandemic, which eventually is a great success. Nearly a year, Malaysia has been experiencing lockdown. Selangor had experienced multiple announcements being a red zone. Selangor has the most dense population due to its economic and political position. But there is one place that receives a lot of attention. They received a lot of different announcements: Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Trade, even the Ministry of Education. What's causing the confusion was not only the virus, but location and jurisdiction as well. Constantly, people are confused. This is explained. This is Klang Shah Alam borders. It is here where we can see the effects of reasons to the jurisdiction confusion. Klang and Shah Alam are divided by this imaginary red line. Klang once is Selangor's capital, but had changed on 1979, leaving some authorities regarding social and religious at Klang, while most authorities moved to Shah Alam. At first, no one really cares, until the pandemic shows what's wrong with the separation.
Very good morning indeed. In today's Explain segment, we're going to dive in several lives affected by the dreadful COVID-19, wondering how lives are affecting as well as how much COVID-19 ruined their lives. In other words, we are curious of how they continue their lives amidst the pandemic. What do you think, Mrs. Hidayah?
Well, thank you, Mr. Aiman. So, indeed, it is a mystery how people today cope with their new lives alongside the awful pandemic. But today's Explain segment, we're going to see each and every one of the sector and relating issues to see how well our everyday heroes and citizens cope with their lives. I'm hearing there's several cases that are very rare and cases in before our daily lives, especially in Klang and Shah Alam Valley, where I've heard there's dozens of cases there, making the location a hot zone for the topic.
You're right about that. There's cases affected by the pandemic, not much by the virus, but authority and confusion orders from the higher ups. But why does this keep happening? How are they feeling about this? Take it away, Mrs. Hidayah.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I agree. Now let us show some short video briefing on this matter. Okay, so here's with us Teacher Sola to explain the situation and experience of being the education powerhouse of the nation.
Thank you, Ms. Hidayah and Mr. Aiman for the segment. Well, it's quite interesting to talk about this since all the hustle that we all been through so far. Well, usually in the first 3 days every pre-MCO week, we teachers and students, we receive different sets of instructions. Where there was one time on the first day after they announced the CMCO in Klang, we teachers in Sekolah Bukit Komuni 2, Kota Komuni Shah Alam, will have to operate as usual, although our school is under the Klang Ministry of Education. But then, they excluded us, claiming that we were not involved because we were in Shah Alam and not in Klang area. But then, on the second day, the police that patrolling the area came and asked to close the school immediately, as they said that our school is under Klang's Ministry of Education and had to be closed too. So all the students, teachers and staff that were already in the school had to go back home immediately, and all the school will be fine. But the odd thing is, on the third day, one of the class educational board member came and asked our headmaster on why didn't the school operating as usual. And they even asked us to come back to schools, saying that we were not involved in the CMCO clung. But after several confusion, even between and during the discussion between the police and the members, so they concluded to close the school as per police request, and that said our school is under police jurisdiction area that already included clan area, also the school premises area.
Wow, there's so much things happen in one short story here. Okay. So somehow I cannot imagine how the parents had to go back and forth to either sending their children or not. It's really a problem if their children were more than 3 or 5 and were going to different schools. There will be much more to catch up, especially on their studies. So, Teacher Sola, can you tell me how the school after the MCO announcement from the government?
Well, after we received the MCO announcement, all teachers were called for a meeting on how we are going to run the class during this the MCO period. One of the ways we all agree to do is online classes, but to do that, we need to reconfigure the subject syllabus to accommodate with the online classes so that it is suitable for all the students.
Interesting on how the teachers cooperate with online classes. What are the approaches used?
We teachers need to explore new creative ways of teaching so that no students are left out. Working at home for me is very challenging, not for the teachers but also the workers out there. For the teachers, we need to find some initiatives on how to deliver the materials and assignments to the students in a simple way.
Wow, that is quite an insightful thought about the educational sector despite the pandemic happening right now. We are truly grateful with today's technology and modern methods so people could cope with their daily routine just for their bread and butter.
That's right, Mrs. Hidayah. For knowledge, we should have to sacrifice a lot. Up next, following the government's announcement to impose Conditional Movement Control Order or the PKPB in Kelang tomorrow, surrounding residents who wanted to work outside the area, they become restless and confused. Therefore, they started flooding the South Kelang District IPD since the morning to get the information they need to stamp out the authorities so that they can work for tomorrow, thus ending the confusion that they can still work out. However, some individuals will have the day in life with the pandemic. Mr. Faiz, a local work reflector, a father, a very kind gentleman, gone through his life provides support for his family. Let's hear his story. Up to you, Mrs. Hidayah.
I'm actually from Bandar Seri Petaling Jaya and I'm already go to the police station there. But they mentioned to go to the police station in Kelang because Kelang that has the red zone. And when I arrived there, I got to know that no need letter endorsement from the police. Supposedly, when they want to announce it, it should mention in detail what are the SOP.
So actually, Mr. Faiz, stay in Kelang or work in Kelang?
I'm actually a representative from the company because we have a worker that stay in Kelang. As I know from the previous SOP, it said that we must get the endorsement letter from the police, even if we have the letter from ET.
So, Mr. Faiz got confused in the SOP before?
Yes, it's right. And to do only this kind of thing actually consume half of the day. So it supposedly has a clear SOP so that the company know what to do and not wasting any time.
Interesting. I heard workers in the area in the CMCO in Kelang need to get permission from their employers to avoid any problem that when passing the roadblock.
It said that no need letter from the police. Just follow on what Datuk Ismail Sabri Yaakob will discuss in the cabinet and follow the current news.
So, you must be confused and worried at suddenly announcement of CMCO, right?
Yes, it worried me because workers are from a far place and they must face roadblock by roadblock from the red zone, which is Kelang, while the office in somewhere else. We just want to protect our worker in case that they're stuck or something like that.
There you are, folks. Our worker experiencing hardship facing this outrageous incident, all because of the people who wouldn't sit down together. Wouldn't you agree that, Mrs. Hidayah?
Yes, of course, I agree. But indeed, we can't blame too much on the higher ups. In fact, we should not blame anyone, but rather speak up the problem through the right network and methods.
Indeed, Mrs. Hidayah. Next, we're going to dive into a more social outlook on the rest of this, where rare phenomenon happened during this COVID-19 pandemic, where our common registration for marriage have turned into more difficult and tiring situation. We've all heard of the case before, but how common are the events in Kelang and Shah Alam anyway?
Well, we now have our newly wedded Mr. Muhammad to tell the experience and the bizarre incident happening in Kelang and Shah Alam district on the wedding.
Thank you for your post. Firstly, I was quite shocked by the announcement as this is quite new for everyone, I suppose. All of it, I suppose, starting from the registration process itself. Well, it's a long story. First, I had to go back and forth to the Islamic department in Kelang specifically. I had my marriage here in Shah Alam, but here's the weird part. I had to undergo the process in Kelang, whereas I'm marrying in Shah Alam. You get what I mean? I had to go back and forth to Islamic department of Petaling and Islamic department of Kelang just to verify our marriage, location and legal, because none of them are answering my calls. So it's sort of very tiresome thing to do, as everyone is doing it. I mean, we planned out the wedding date way before the pandemic. We are afraid of not getting the chance. Things might get worse than today.
Well, glad to see everything running smoothly for you and your partner. So it's quite an insightful story to experience during this pandemic, and we are seeing things happening that we never thought it could be happen actually. Who knew just the same name in the address is actually different when it comes to authorities? Who could have prepared for that if not the public knowledge?
Up next, we bring you Mr. Amir for some insightful solution for the problem. Mr. Amir and Mr. Udin is an activist who have been fighting for the right of the people during the time of crisis and have a decent background on studies of planning. This event has come to their attention. Something must be done. Let's hear it from them.
This is Malaysia. We spread into three political systems. First is by constitutional monarchy, which means power from the king, but they are not in total control. That's why it's by constitutional. A constitutional meaning a set of powers specified to where it's distributed. Second is by parliamentary democracy. Simple as people vote for its leader, like how democracy would look like, would determining the MP or the representative or members of party. Third is by federation. This where it's get tricky. There's two involvement, the federal government and the state government. The federal government focus on internal security, foreign affairs and economy, where state government touch on Islamic law and Malay culture.
That's right, Mr. Amir. We've come up with a proposal for the public to join and bring awareness for the future generation. The first one is we propose of public and authority awareness of unification of district influence. The second one, we would like the authorities introduce a hierarchy demarcation in every area. It means of urban development through visual and physical impact, like a new gateway and plantation or sign on the borders. The third one is we would like to propose constant campaign on the issue towards the government to urge them on sitting down to solve the unification issues, otherwise the involvement of new generation in politics. The fourth, making urban conditions of this relationship to be systematic. The individuals who are impacted by this urban condition and the stakeholders who may manage or influence how this system operates.
Agree. And thank you again to all our guests, Mr. Sola, Mr. Faiz, Mr. Muhammad and Mr. Amir and Mr. Udin. Even long before, there were a Malay pantun flows from Aceh to Malay region that sounded like this. Berhati-hati, jangan sampai khianat, walau sedikit rakyat harus sama rata. Jangan sampai menyesal di akhir akhirat, di dalam kuburan tiada yang menolong sama. The pantun reflected for anyone who have authority on making decisions that we have to make sure whenever or whoever we are, we can't be careless or be arbitrarily deceived to the people, because we must remember that life aren't forever and the hereafter will be there for us to be guided forever.
Yes, although some might say that trying to get government to be as efficient as business is as hopeless as trying to teach the cats to bark and dogs to meow. And even some might say that if we say that it is hopeless, the hopeless don't revolt because revolution is an act of hope. But do we have to reach to that extent? And beneath that, it may occur to some of us that this is a small issue that arises as we can only see the problems and its effect to our lives only within several months of our life, and it's all still new. But we have to remember to don't ever doubt that one small single event can trigger an unstoppable change of events that gain momentum with increasing force, and nothing is ever the same, where it only needs one reactive moment to create a domino effect that will finally changing your life one decision at a time. So this is our hope and vision of our nation, Malaysia, towards a better future together.
I'm Aiman,
I'm Hidayah,
bringing you live from Doorstep News. Assalamualaikum and stay safe, stay at home. Good evening, until next time. Thank you.